The knock on the door came at 2 a.m. 3 men, black suits, black ties, pale skin. They knew his name. They knew about the photographs. They knew what he'd seen in the sky 3 nights earlier. And they wanted the evidence. All of it. Albert Bender opened the door. The men didn't introduce themselves, didn't show identification, just stared, with eyes that seemed wrong somehow. Too intense. Too knowing. "We need to talk about what you saw," one said. His voice was flat, emotionless, mechanical almost. Bender felt fear rising in his throat. How did they know? He hadn't told anyone except his UFO research group. The men stepped inside, uninvited. They sat in his living room, perfectly still, hands folded identically. They asked about the lights, about the craft, about the photographs he'd taken. Then they warned him. "Stop your research. Destroy the evidence. Never speak of this again, or there will be consequences. There are visitors that arrive after UFO sightings, men in black suits, claiming to be government agents, intimidating witnesses, confiscating evidence, silencing researchers. But when investigators check, these men don't exist. No agency employs them. No records show their visits. No identification validates their authority. They appear. They threaten. They vanish. Like ghosts. Or something worse. Welcome to The Dark Void, where we investigate the phenomena behind the phenomena. The Watchers who watch the Watchers. If you want to discover the truth about who's really monitoring UFO encounters, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Because here at The Dark Void, we investigate the mysteries that go deeper than alien craft. We investigate those who silence the witnesses, those who erase the evidence, those who operate in the shadows. And with each video, the truth gets closer. Tonight, real men in black encounters, documented cases, credible witnesses, government connections, and questions that lead to the darkest corners of UFO research, from Area 51 to NASA, from small-town contactees to military whistleblowers. The men in black are real, and their mission is suppression by any means necessary. June 1953, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Albert K. Bender was a UFO researcher, founder of the International Flying Saucer Bureau, publisher of Space Review magazine, respected in the UFO community. Thousands of members worldwide, collecting reports, documenting sightings, building evidence. Then everything changed. Bender claimed he'd solved the UFO mystery, discovered the truth about where they came from, why they were here. He planned to publish his findings in the next issue, but the issue never came. Instead, Bender received visitors, 3 men in black suits. Late at night, they entered his apartment, showed him something. He never specified what, but whatever it was, it terrified him. Bender described the encounter in fragments. The men appeared in his room, without knocking, without entering through the door. They were just suddenly there, standing in formation, staring at him with those penetrating eyes. One carried a small device, metallic, glowing. He pointed it at Bender. A sensation overwhelmed him, like his mind was being read, like every thought was exposed, every memory accessible. The men knew everything, his research, his theories, his discoveries, and they knew he was right. That's what terrified him most. Not that he was wrong, but that he was right, and that the truth was more dangerous than he'd imagined. The men showed him images, visions, realities beyond human comprehension, where the UFOs came from, who operated them, what they wanted with Earth. Bender saw underground bases, oceans being harvested, humans being studied, experiments, hybridization, a program spanning centuries. And he saw the men in black, guardians, enforcers, protectors of the secret, not human, not entirely, something else wearing human form. When the vision ended, Bender was on the floor, trembling, crying. The men stood over him. "You know the truth now," one said. "You understand why it must remain hidden. Humanity isn't ready. Disclosure would cause chaos, collapse. We prevent that. We maintain order. You will help us. You will stop your research. You will close your organization. You will never speak of what you've learned, or we will return. And next time, we won't be so gentle." Bender immediately shut down his organization, stopped all research, ceased publication, withdrew completely from ufology. His colleagues were shocked. Bender had been passionate, dedicated, obsessed with finding the truth. Now he wanted nothing to do with UFOs. When friends asked what happened, Bender would only say the men in black had visited, that they'd shown him the truth, that he'd been wrong about everything, and that he could never speak of it again. For his own safety, for the safety of his family. For 3 years, Bender remained silent, living in fear, looking over his shoulder, checking for surveillance. Then in 1956, he received permission. One of the men in black contacted him telepathically. He could write about the encounter, but only in a specific way, only framing it as fiction, as fantasy, as unbelievable. So the truth would be dismissed, ridiculed, protected by its own absurdity. Years later, he wrote a book, Flying Saucers and the Three Men, describing his encounter. But the description was bizarre. The men weren't human. They were entities from another dimension, using UFOs to extract a rare element from Earth's oceans, iridium, for their dying world. The account was so strange that many dismissed it as fiction, as a cover story, as disinformation, exactly as intended. But what if Bender was trying to tell the truth, using the only framework he could? What if the men in black really weren't human? What if they were something else, using human appearance to operate in our world? What if everything in his book was real, just presented in a way that ensured nobody would believe it? The perfect cover-up. Hide the truth in plain sight. Make it so ridiculous that nobody takes it seriously. The Bender case became the template, the first widely documented Men in Black encounter, and it established the pattern. Mysterious visitors, black suits, intimidation, silence, supernatural elements, non-human characteristics, and psychological trauma that lasted a lifetime. Bender never recovered, died believing he'd been cursed, marked, monitored until his last breath. But it wasn't the last case. It was just the beginning. September 11th, 1976, Lewiston, Maine. Dr. Herbert Hopkins was a physician, respected, credible, 58 years old, rational, scientific, not prone to fantasy or delusion. He was also consulting on a UFO case, the David Stevens abduction, a local man claiming to have been taken aboard a craft, subjected to medical examination, missing time, physical marks, classic abduction scenario. Hopkins was conducting hypnotic regression sessions, helping Stevens recover memories. Standard investigative work, professional, careful, documented. Then he received a phone call, a man identifying himself as a UFO researcher from New Jersey, asking to visit, discuss the case. Hopkins agreed. The man said he'd arrive shortly. Hopkins hung up, walked to the kitchen, poured coffee, returned to the living room. There was a knock at the door. He looked at his watch. Impossible. Less than 2 minutes had passed. The caller had just hung up. Hopkins lived in rural Maine, far from town, far from anything. No one could arrive that fast. Not from New Jersey, not from anywhere, unless they were already there, already watching, already waiting. Hopkins opened the door. A man in a black suit, black tie, black hat, white shirt, everything perfectly pressed, perfectly clean, but his appearance was wrong. The skin was pale, unnaturally pale, like alabaster, like he'd never seen sunlight, never been outdoors. The head was completely hairless, no eyebrows, no eyelashes, no stubble, smooth, artificial looking, and the lips were bright red, like lipstick. But Hopkins could tell it wasn't makeup. The color was natural or unnatural, like the pigmentation was wrong. "May I come in?" The voice was strange too, flat, monotone, no inflection, no emotion, like a recording. Hopkins felt uneasy but stepped aside. The man entered, moved mechanically, stiff, walked to the chair, sat down, perfectly rigid posture, hands on knees, fingers spread evenly, symmetrical, unmoving. Hopkins sat across from him, studied him. Something was deeply wrong. This wasn't a normal person, wasn't a normal visit. They discussed the UFO case. The man asked detailed questions about the abduction, about the regression sessions, about what Stevens remembered. Hopkins answered carefully, professionally, but the man already knew everything, every detail, every session, every recovered memory, things Hopkins hadn't shared publicly, things only he and Stevens knew. How? How did this stranger know classified therapeutic information? No details from private sessions. Hopkins began to feel afraid. Then the conversation became stranger. The man asked if Hopkins had any coins. Odd request, but Hopkins complied. reached into his pocket, pulled out a penny, handed it over. The man took it, held it in his palm, flat, open, stared at it. The penny began to blur, to shimmer. The edges softened. The color changed, bronze to silver. The metal transformed before Hopkins' eyes. Alchemy, transmutation, impossible. Hopkins stared, unable to process what he was seeing. This violated physics, violated chemistry, violated everything he understood about reality. The man smiled. Neither you nor anyone else on this planet will ever see that coin again. The penny vanished, simply ceased to exist. One moment in his palm, next moment gone. No sleight of hand, no trick, just impossible disappearance. Hopkins felt his worldview crumbling. This wasn't human, wasn't natural, wasn't anything he could explain. The man's voice became weaker, fainter, like a radio losing signal. My energy is running low. I must go now. He stood, slowly, unsteadily, like a machine winding down, like a battery dying, walked toward the door, each step slower than the last, more labored. Hopkins watched in horror, fascinated and terrified. The man reached the door, opened it, stepped outside, turned back. Do not continue your work on the Stevens case. Destroy your files. Forget what you've learned. This is your only warning. Then he walked down the stairs. Hopkins followed, watched from the doorway. The man reached the driveway. A bright light appeared, blue-white, brilliant, intense, like a spotlight. But there was no source, no vehicle, just light. The man walked into it. The light grew brighter, blinding. Hopkins shielded his eyes. When the light faded, the man was gone. No car, no footprints, no evidence anyone had been there. Just empty driveway. Silent night. Hopkins stood trembling, returned inside, locked every door, every window, called his son, his daughter-in-law, told them what happened. They drove over immediately, found him shaking, pale, terrified. They'd never seen him like this. Dr. Hopkins was always calm, always rational, always in control. Now he was falling apart. Hopkins destroyed everything, every file on the Stevens case, every tape, every note, every document, burned them in the fireplace, watched them turn to ash, called Stevens, told him he couldn't continue, couldn't help, couldn't be involved. Stevens understood. He'd received visitors too, different men, same message: stop talking, stop investigating, stop remembering, or face consequences. Hopkins withdrew from UFO research completely, never investigated again, never hypnotized another experiencer, never discussed the encounter publicly until years later. When researchers finally convinced him to tell his story, he maintained every detail: the impossible arrival, the pale skin, the red lips, the vanishing coin, the fading energy, the mysterious light. He was a medical doctor, trained observer, rational, scientific, and he knew what he'd experienced wasn't human, wasn't normal, wasn't anything he could explain. The Hopkins case introduced new elements to the Men in Black phenomenon: the supernatural abilities, the obvious non-human characteristics, the physical impossibilities. These weren't government agents. These were something else, using the appearance of authority, the intimidation of officialdom, but revealing themselves as other, as beyond, as incomprehensible. The mask slipping, the facade cracking, showing what lay beneath. October 1967, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Mary Heyer was a journalist, correspondent for the Athens Messenger. She'd been covering strange events in the area for over a year: UFO sightings, the Mothman encounters, mysterious lights over the TNT area, strange creatures seen near the abandoned munitions bunkers. Her reports were detailed, well-researched, credible. She interviewed dozens of witnesses, documented patterns, built timelines, established credibility. The sightings were escalating, more frequent, more witnesses, more bizarre. Something was happening in Point Pleasant, something unexplainable. Mary was determined to document it, to find answers, to tell the truth. Then the visitors came, men in black suits, claiming to be from the government, from various agencies: Air Force, FBI, Pentagon. Different men, different agencies, but always the same message: stop reporting, stop investigating, move on. They came to her office during work hours, unannounced, no appointments. They'd walk in, Show credentials. Asked to speak privately. Mary would comply. Professional courtesy. They'd sit down. Ask about her sources, her evidence, her photographs, her notes. She'd answer vaguely, protecting her sources, maintaining journalistic integrity. They'd become more insistent, more aggressive, more threatening, but something was wrong with them. Their questions were odd, stilted, like they were reading from a script, like they didn't understand human conversation. They'd ask about her health, specifically about her heart, whether she had any heart problems, any cardiovascular issues, any family history of heart disease. The questions seemed random, inappropriate, but also threatening somehow, like they knew something, like they were planning something. Mary felt uncomfortable, asked for identification. They showed cards, government seals, official looking. But when she looked closely, the printing was strange, the format wrong. The agencies listed didn't quite match real departments. The fonts were off, the seals slightly incorrect, like forgeries, like someone had tried to replicate official credentials but gotten details wrong. She asked them to leave. They stood, in perfect unison, like puppets on the same string, like synchronized robots. "We'll be watching," one said. "We know where you live, where you work, who you talk to, what you write, everything." It was a threat, direct, undisguised. They left. Mary immediately made calls, called the agencies listed on their identification. Air Force Office of Special Investigations. No such agents existed. No record of any visit. FBI Field Office. No such investigation. No agents assigned to Point Pleasant. Pentagon Public Affairs. No interest in local UFO reports. No personnel deployed. She'd been visited by phantoms, by imposters, by something using the veneer of authority to intimidate. But the visits continued. Different men, same pattern. Always in black suits. Always with questionable credentials. Always with the same warnings. And always asking about her heart. The repetition was disturbing, frightening. What did they know about her health? What were they implying? Was it a threat, a prediction, or something worse? Mary Hyre continued her reporting, refused to be silenced. She was a journalist. Truth was her mission. Intimidation wouldn't stop her. She documented the men in black visits, included them in her reports, made them part of the story, showed how UFO witnesses were being systematically harassed, how evidence was being suppressed, how the government or something pretending to be the government was working to silence the truth. Then the Silver Bridge collapsed. December 15, 1967. 46 people died. The tragedy devastated Point Pleasant. Mary covered it extensively. The investigation, the recovery, the aftermath. The stress was enormous. Working 18-hour days, interviewing survivors, documenting the disaster, processing the trauma. Her health deteriorated. She developed heart problems, palpitations, chest pain, shortness of breath. The men in black had asked about her heart, had known. She died February 1970, at 44. Massive heart attack, sudden, unexpected. The men in black had asked about her heart, had warned her, had known it would happen. Point Pleasant locals believed the men in black were connected to everything strange happening in the area. The UFOs, the Mothman, the bridge collapse, Mary's death, all of it linked, all of it monitored, all of it connected to something larger, something darker, something that wanted silence. Did the men in black kill Mary Hyre? Did their visits cause stress that triggered her heart attack? Or did they know it would happen? Predict it? See the future? Or did they cause it directly, through means we don't understand, technology we can't comprehend? The questions haunt researchers. The answers remain hidden. June 1968, New York and New Jersey. John Keel was investigating UFO phenomena. Writing his book, The Mothman Prophecies. He'd spent years in Point Pleasant, interviewing witnesses, documenting encounters, building connections. He'd uncovered patterns, saw how UFO sightings connected to other paranormal events, poltergeist activity, precognitive dreams, men in black visits. It was all part of something larger, something he was beginning to understand. Keel received information about government suppression from military sources, intelligence contacts, people inside the system. They told him about agencies monitoring UFO researchers, about men in unmarked cars following investigators, about phone taps, mail intercepts, surveillance operations. The government was watching, tracking, documenting. Everyone involved in UFO research was on a list, being monitored, being assessed. Then Keel started experiencing it himself. Strange phone calls, at all hours, mechanical voices, distorted, threatening messages, warnings to stop his research, stop asking questions, stop investigating. The calls would come at 3 a.m., wake him from sleep. The voice would be inhuman, electronic, telling him things, predicting events, warning him about disasters, plane crashes, accidents, deaths, and the predictions came true. How did they know? How could they predict the future? One night, Keel was followed, driving home from a research trip, late, dark roads. He noticed headlights behind him. Black car, no license plates, tinted windows, staying close, matching his speed. He tried to lose it, turned down side streets, accelerated. The car stayed with him, matching every move, anticipating every turn, like they knew where he was going, like they could read his mind. Finally, Keel pulled over. Enough of this. He was going to confront them, demand answers, get identification. The car stopped behind him, engine running, headlights on. Keel got out, walked toward the car. A man emerged from the driver's side. Black suit, black tie, black sunglasses. At night, in darkness, wearing sunglasses. The absurdity was obvious, the intimidation clear. Are you John Keel? Yes. Who are you? You need to stop asking questions. About what? You know about what? The UFOs, the contacts, the patterns you're uncovering. Why? What's the threat? The truth is dangerous for everyone, including you, especially you. Keel demanded identification. The man reached into his jacket, pulled out a card. Defense Intelligence Agency, official seal, agent credentials. Keel examined it carefully. He'd seen real DIA credentials. These weren't right. The format was wrong. The hologram missing. The signature fake. Who are you really? The man smiled. Cold, humorless. Someone who's trying to help you. Someone who knows what happens to people who dig too deep. Someone who's seen the consequences. Stop now, while you still can. Keel refused. I'm a journalist. I report the truth. You don't know what the truth is. Not yet. And if you find out, you'll wish you hadn't. The man returned to the car. It drove away, silently. No engine sound, no exhaust. Just glided backward, turned, disappeared into darkness. Impossible for any normal vehicle. Keel reported the encounter, filed complaints with police, with federal agencies, with his contacts in intelligence. The Defense Intelligence Agency denied sending anyone, denied any interest in his research, denied the entire incident. No such agent, no such car, no such investigation. Keel was lying, mistaken, delusional. But Keel wasn't alone. Dozens of other researchers reported similar encounters. Same black suits, same vague threats, same impossible details. Gray Barker was a UFO researcher, West Virginia, friend of Keel's. He received visits, men in black suits, asking about his books, his sources, his evidence, wanting him to stop publishing, stop spreading information, stop encouraging belief in UFOs. They offered money to stop writing, to destroy his files, to disappear. Barker refused, kept publishing, kept researching. The visits became more aggressive, more threatening, more bizarre. One visitor demonstrated abilities, knew things he shouldn't know, private conversations Barker had had, thoughts he'd never spoken aloud, details about his childhood no stranger could know. The man read his mind, or had access to impossible information. He predicted events, specific events. A car accident Barker would witness, a phone call he would receive, a letter that would arrive. All came true, exactly as predicted. How? Technology, psychic ability, time travel, future knowledge. The pattern was clear. Someone was monitoring UFO research. Someone wanted it stopped, or controlled, or directed away from certain truths. But who? The government denied involvement. Every agency denied knowledge. Every official denied these men existed. So if not government, then who? Private contractors? Shadow agencies operating outside oversight? Or something else entirely? Something using the appearance of human authority? Something with its own agenda? Something protecting secrets we're not meant to discover? Hit that like button if you think there's a deeper layer to UFO phenomena. If you believe the cover-up goes beyond simple government secrecy, because what we're seeing isn't just suppression of evidence. It's active intimidation. It's targeted harassment. It's psychological warfare. Against citizens. Against researchers. Against anyone who gets too close to the truth. And it's been happening for decades. Consistently. Systematically. With clear organization and funding. Los Angeles, California. Robert Richardson was driving home from work. Late night. Deserted road. Toledo, Ohio area, actually. July 1967. The road was dark, rural, no other traffic. Suddenly, a metallic object appeared in front of his car, just materialized. No warning. Disc-shaped, about 30 feet diameter, hovering low, directly in his path. Richardson slammed the brakes, swerved, barely avoided collision. The impact would have been fatal. The object was solid, real, physical. The object shot away. Vertical acceleration, straight up, gone in seconds. Faster than anything Richardson had ever seen. Faster than any aircraft. Faster than physics should allow. He stopped the car, got out, hands shaking, heart pounding. What the hell was that? He looked around. The road was empty, silent. No evidence of what just happened. Except there was, on the road, where the object had been, a piece of metal, small fragment, about the size of a quarter. Unusual appearance, shiny, lightweight, strange texture. Richardson picked it up, examined it. Definitely metal, but like no metal he'd seen before. Smooth, almost liquid-looking, but solid. Room temperature, no magnetic properties. He took it home, showed his wife, called the local UFO group, reported the encounter, described the object, the near collision, the metal fragment. They were excited. Physical evidence. Actual material from a UFO. This was huge, unprecedented. They urged him to have it analyzed. Richardson contacted a metallurgist, university professor, expert in materials analysis, brought him the fragment. The professor examined it, conducted tests, spectroscopy, X-ray diffraction, chemical analysis. The results were strange. Unusual alloy. Composition didn't match any known material. High silicon content. Unusual crystal structure, isotope ratios that didn't match terrestrial samples, possible extraterrestrial origin. The professor was cautious, more testing needed, but preliminary results were extraordinary. Richardson was thrilled. He had proof. Scientific evidence, expert analysis. He showed it to his local UFO group, NICAP chapter, Northern Ohio, discussed the encounter in detail. They documented everything. Took photographs of the fragment, recorded Richardson's testimony, planned to send the sample to larger laboratories, get more analysis, publish the findings. This could change everything. Prove UFOs were real. Prove they were extraterrestrial. Prove the phenomenon was physical, not psychological. Then the visitors came. 3 days later, 2 men, black suits, black ties, white shirts, black sunglasses, knocked on Richardson's door. Morning, Saturday. He answered. The men showed identification. Government officials, Office of Naval Intelligence, investigating unidentified objects. Richardson was surprised. How did they know? How did Navy intelligence hear about a UFO encounter in Ohio? But he was cooperative, patriotic, willing to help. They asked about the encounter. Richardson described it. The object, the near collision, the trajectory, the speed. They took notes, asked detailed questions. Technical questions about the object's appearance, its movements, its characteristics. Then they asked about the fragment. We understand you recovered material. Yes, we'd like to examine it. Of course. Richardson brought them the metal fragment, showed them the preliminary analysis, the unusual composition, the professor's report. The men studied it briefly, exchanged glances, put it in a small container. We'll need to take this for analysis. Our laboratories are more advanced. Better equipped. When will I get it back? You won't. This is classified now. Evidence in an ongoing investigation. National security matter. Richardson protested. That's my property. I found it. It was in my possession. Not anymore. This material is now property of the United States government. Defense materials. Potential foreign technology. We have authority to confiscate it. Richardson demanded documentation. A receipt. Something official. They wrote a brief note. Vague. No specific details. No case number. No contact information. Just a signature, illegible, and a date. They left, taking the only physical evidence, the only proof of his encounter. Richardson tried to follow up, called the Office of Naval Intelligence, provided the names from their identification. No such agents existed, no such investigation, no record of any visit to his home. The fragment was gone. The evidence vanished. The proof erased. Richardson was left with nothing but his story, a story now impossible to verify, impossible to prove. The metallurgist still had his analysis, but without the sample, it meant nothing. Could have been anything. Could have been misidentified. Could have been fabricated. Richardson's credibility was undermined. His evidence gone. His encounter dismissed. Convenient for those who want UFO evidence suppressed. Very convenient indeed. This pattern repeats constantly. Throughout UFO history, physical evidence collected by witnesses, then confiscated by mysterious men. Metal fragments, photographs, soil samples, radiation-exposed materials, all disappear, all vanish into classified vaults or into nowhere. The witnesses are left with nothing, their credibility undermined, their evidence gone, their stories dismissed, and when they report it, they're told no such agents exist, no such confiscation occurred. They're mistaken, confused, lying, seeking attention. But too many witnesses report identical experiences. Too many researchers lose evidence the same way. Too many samples vanish under identical circumstances. This isn't coincidence. This is systematic. This is organized. This is intentional suppression of physical proof. The question is why? What's in those samples that can't be revealed? What do the analyses show? Extraterrestrial origin? Advanced alloys? Unknown elements? Technology beyond human capability? And where does the evidence go? Who has it? Who studies it? Who benefits from keeping it secret? The government? Private contractors? Aerospace companies? Or something else? Something non-human? Collecting its own technology? Retrieving its own materials? Preventing human analysis? Gulf Breeze, Florida. Ed Walters was a building contractor. Successful, respected in the community. Family man. Not interested in UFOs, never believed in them. Then on November 11th, he saw one, hovering over his yard. Massive, structured, obviously technological. He grabbed his Polaroid camera, took photographs, multiple shots, different angles, clear images. The craft was there, real, undeniable. The photographs were extraordinary. The object was disc-shaped, glowing, with a distinctive ring of lights. Symmetric, geometric, clearly artificial. Walters took more photographs over the following weeks. Multiple sightings, multiple encounters, always photographing, always documenting. The images were analyzed by photographic experts, by computer analysis, by optical specialists. No evidence of hoax, no signs of manipulation, no double exposure, no model on string. The photographs appeared genuine. Walters became famous in UFO circles. His photographs published in newspapers, featured on television, analyzed by researchers worldwide. Media attention intensified. Documentary crews came to Gulf Breeze, interviewed Walters, investigated his claims, examined his photographs. The town became a hotspot for UFO sightings. Other witnesses came forward, saw similar objects, took their own photographs. Gulf Breeze was experiencing a wave, a genuine UFO flap. Then the men in black arrived. They came to Walters' workplace during business hours, public, visible. Two men, black suits, dark glasses, pale skin, asking for Ed Walters. His employees directed them to his office. The men entered without knocking, closed the door, sat down uninvited, stared at Walters with cold eyes, expressionless faces. "We know about your photographs. We know what you saw, and we know you're lying." Walters protested. "The photos are real. I have negatives, multiple witnesses. Other people saw it too. Expert analysis confirms authenticity." The men didn't respond to his arguments, didn't acknowledge his evidence. They had their own agenda, their own script. "You need to admit it's a hoax. Come clean publicly. Say you faked it. Confess." "Why would I do that? It's the truth. I saw it. I photographed it. It's real. Because otherwise things will get difficult for you, for your business, for your family, for your reputation, for everything you've built." Is that a threat? It's a warning, a friendly warning from people who know how these things work, how public opinion shifts, how reputations get destroyed, how businesses fail. Walters refused, told them to leave, threatened to call the police. The men smiled, cold, mirthless. Go ahead, call them, report us, see what happens. We'll be long gone before they arrive, and they'll find no record we were ever here. No evidence we exist. You'll look foolish, paranoid, exactly what we want. They stood, in perfect synchronization, like one mind controlling two bodies. We'll be in touch. Remember what we said. Think about your family. Think about what you're risking. Think about whether your photographs are worth losing everything. They left, walked through the office, past his employees, out to the parking lot, got into a black car, no license plates, tinted windows, drove away. Walters immediately made calls, called the local Air Force base, Eglin, AFB, reported the intimidation attempt, described the men, asked if they were military investigators. The Air Force denied sending anyone, denied any interest in his photographs, denied any investigation. He called the FBI, reported potential impersonation of federal agents. The FBI took a report, investigated, found nothing. No such agents, no such visit, no evidence anyone had been there. But Walter's co-workers saw them, remembered them clearly, described them identically. Black suits, dark glasses, pale skin, strange affect, mechanical movements, threatening demeanor. Over a dozen witnesses to their visit, all corroborating Walter's account, all describing the same details. These weren't hallucinations, weren't fabrications. These were real visitors, real threats, real intimidation. Who were they? Why did they want Walters to recant? What threat did his photographs pose? The images showed a structured craft, advanced technology, clear evidence of non-human intelligence, something physical, something real, something that couldn't be dismissed as weather balloons or Venus or swamp gas. The photographs were too clear, too detailed, too well documented. They threatened the official narrative, the government denial, the systematic debunking. Is that what the men in black wanted suppressed? Is that what threatened their agenda? The denial of extraterrestrial visitation requires the suppression of evidence, the discrediting of witnesses, the intimidation of researchers, and the men in black serve that purpose perfectly. They arrive, they threaten, they leave, and witnesses are left terrified, doubting themselves, reconsidering whether speaking the truth is worth the cost. But Walters didn't recant, didn't admit to hoax, maintained his story, kept his photographs public, continued documenting sightings. The men in black had failed. Their intimidation hadn't worked. So what happened next? Nothing. No further visits. No escalation. No consequences. Why? Did they move on to easier targets? Did they decide Walters was too public, too defended, too supported by other witnesses? Or did they achieve their goal anyway? By making him look paranoid, by adding men in black claims to his UFO claims, by making the whole thing seem more bizarre and less credible. Maybe that's the real purpose. Not to silence witnesses completely, but to make them seem crazy, to add layers of strangeness, to transform credible testimony into unbelievable stories. UFO photographs are one thing. UFO photographs plus men in black visits are another. The general public can almost accept unexplained lights, but unexplained lights plus government conspiracies plus threatening visitors, that's too much. That crosses into paranoid fantasy. That's exactly what debunkers want. March 13th, 1997, Phoenix, Arizona. The Phoenix Lights, the largest mass UFO sighting in modern American history. Thousands of witnesses across multiple cities. A massive V-shaped craft over a mile wide, silent, hovering over populated areas, documented by hundreds, photographed, videotaped, reported to authorities, police, fire departments, Luke Air Force Base. The event was undeniable. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, too public to suppress completely. The official explanation came quickly. Military flares, training exercise, Barry Goldwater Range, nothing unusual, routine operations. But witnesses knew better. They saw what they saw. Flares don't form structured shapes, don't maintain formation for hours, don't block out stars as they pass overhead, don't move smoothly and silently. The explanation was insulting, absurd, contradicted by thousands of eyewitnesses, contradicted by photographic evidence, contradicted by basic physics. Some witnesses spoke publicly, appeared on news programs, described what they saw, demanded real investigation, demanded answers, demanded the government take it seriously. Frances Barwood was a Phoenix City councilwoman. She demanded investigation, asked the military for explanations, pushed for public hearings, made it a political issue, refused to accept the flare explanation, represented thousands of constituents who knew what they'd seen. Then she received calls, anonymous, threatening, warning her to drop the issue, to stop asking questions, to move on to other matters. The calls came at all hours: home phone, office phone, cell phone. The callers knew details about her life, her schedule, her family, her movements. They were watching, monitoring, tracking. The intimidation was clear, the message obvious: stop or face consequences. Men appeared at her office, no appointments, no names given, just walked in, asked to speak with her privately. Dark suits, official bearing, government credentials, various agencies. They asked why she was making this an issue, why she cared about UFOs, why she was wasting taxpayer time and money on nonsense. The flare explanation was official, accepted, case closed. Why couldn't she move on? Barwood stood firm. Thousands of people saw something. They deserve answers, real answers, not dismissive explanations that contradict the evidence. I represent them. I speak for them. I demand investigation. The men became more aggressive, more threatening. This isn't helping your political career. This isn't helping your reputation. You're becoming a joke, a laughingstock. The UFO councilwoman. Is that what you want to be known for? She refused to back down, continued demanding investigation, continued speaking publicly. The harassment escalated. Her tires were slashed, multiple times, different locations. Her mail was tampered with, envelopes opened, contents examined. Strangers photographed her home, from cars, from across the street. Obvious, deliberate, meant to be seen, meant to intimidate. She reported it to police. They investigated, found nothing. No suspects, no evidence, no explanation. The message was clear: silence or consequences. Barwood eventually left politics, the stress, the harassment, the toll on her family. She'd done what she could, demanded answers, represented her constituents, but the cost was too high. The men in black had won, not by silencing her completely, but by making the price of speaking unbearable. Other Phoenix Lights witnesses reported similar experiences. Dr. Lynn Kite was a physician. She photographed the lights, clear images, documented the event extensively, published her findings, gave interviews, wrote a book, produced a documentary. She committed to transparency, to disclosure, to spreading the truth. Then she noticed surveillance. Cars outside her home, same cars, different times, same drivers, watching, waiting, following her to work, to the store, to appointments, constant monitoring. She reported it to police. They found nothing. No suspicious vehicles when they checked, no stalkers, no explanation. But Kite knew. She felt watched, monitored, targeted. The surveillance was professional, careful. They knew when to disappear, when to be visible. Maximum intimidation with minimum evidence. She received calls, warnings. Stop talking about the lights. Stop showing the photographs. Move on with your life. Forget what you saw. It's better for everyone. She refused. Continued her research. Published a book. Phoenix Lights, a skeptic's discovery that we are not alone. The surveillance continued. Years of monitoring. Years of subtle intimidation. Years of psychological pressure. Why? What threat did her evidence pose? Why does photographic documentation of a mass sighting require suppression? Why do witnesses need to be silenced? What is so dangerous about the truth? The Phoenix Lights case reveals the scope of the operation. Thousands of witnesses, requiring systematic intimidation, coordinated suppression, multiple agents, multiple approaches. This isn't a few rogue operatives. This is organized, funded, directed by someone, by some organization with resources, with authority, with reach. The government, shadow agencies, private contractors, or something else? Subscribe to The Dark Void and hit that notification bell, because the deeper we dig, The stranger this gets. The men in black aren't just suppressing UFO evidence. They're protecting something bigger, something that connects government agencies, military installations, and perhaps non-human intelligence. Every week more evidence, more witnesses, more truths emerging from the shadows. Area 51, Groom Lake, Nevada, the most secretive military installation in America. Officially, it doesn't exist. No acknowledgement, no admission, no confirmation. Unofficially, everyone knows it's there. Satellite imagery shows it. Perimeter security protects it. Restricted airspace surrounds it. Shoot to kill authorization. No-fly zones. Armed guards. What happens there is among the most closely guarded secrets in American history. Workers are transported daily from Las Vegas. Janet flights. Unmarked planes. No passenger lists. No flight logs. No public records. They work on projects they can't discuss. See things they can't describe. Sign non-disclosure agreements that last beyond death. Security clearances above top secret. Compartmentalized information. Need-to-know basis only. Most workers don't know what happens in other sections, other buildings, other programs. But some have seen things that shouldn't exist, things not from here. And when they talk, quietly, carefully, to trusted friends or family, the men in black visit. Bob Lazar is the most famous example. In 1989, he came forward publicly, claimed to have worked at S4, a facility near Area 51, on reverse engineering projects, alien spacecraft, 9 different craft, different origins, different technologies, different levels of functionality. Lazar described the craft in detail: the propulsion systems, gravity amplifiers, element 115, stable isotope, not found naturally on Earth, used as fuel, creating intense gravitational fields, bending space-time, allowing faster-than-light travel, interstellar distances. The technology was beyond human understanding, beyond our physics, beyond our capability. We were studying it, trying to understand it, attempting to replicate it. When Lazar went public, his life was destroyed systematically, employment records erased. MIT claims no record of his attendance. Caltech has no records. His past was systematically deleted, as if he'd never existed, never studied, never worked, never had the credentials he claimed. Education records destroyed, employment history vanished, evidence of his existence methodically removed. But that wasn't enough. Men in black suits visited his friends, his family, his employers, anyone who knew him, anyone who could corroborate his story, asking questions, making threats, discrediting him. Tell us about Bob Lazar. Is he credible? Is he stable? Has he ever lied? Ever exaggerated? Ever shown signs of mental illness? The questions were designed to undermine, to plant doubt, to destroy credibility. Some people supported Lazar anyway, believed his technical knowledge was too detailed to be fabricated, his descriptions too consistent, his credentials too specific. These people were targeted, intimidated, warned. Anyone who supported Lazar's story received visits, phone calls, warnings. Back off. Stop supporting him. Stop spreading his story. Move on, for your own good. Lazar described the men in black visits personally. They weren't subtle, weren't polite. They were direct, threatening, professional intimidators. They knew details about his life nobody should know. Private conversations, personal information, financial details, relationship problems. They'd done their research, built psychological profiles, identified vulnerabilities, and they exploited them ruthlessly. This is what happens when you break security, when you reveal classified information, when you threaten the secret. We can destroy you, we can erase you, we can make you unemployable, unmarriageable, uncredible. We can make you nothing, just another crazy person with a story nobody believes. Is that what you want? Is your need to tell the truth worth losing everything? Lazar survived, barely. His reputation destroyed, his credentials questioned, his testimony ridiculed, dismissed as hoaxer, attention seeker, delusional fantasist. But some of what he said proved true. Element 115 was later synthesized, moscovium, added to periodic table in 2003, confirmed to exist. His description of the facility layout matched later satellite imagery. His technical knowledge was consistent with advanced physics, antimatter reactors, gravity wave propulsion, concepts that weren't mainstream in 1989 but are being seriously studied now. Was Lazar telling the truth? Did he work on alien technology at Area 51? Did the men in black suppress the evidence? Destroy his credibility? Erase his past? The questions remain. The answers are still classified. But the pattern is clear. People who reveal Area 51's secrets are systematically destroyed, their lives dismantled, their credibility obliterated, their evidence eliminated. The men in black ensure it. NASA has its own history with men in black incidents. Astronauts who see things they can't explain. Technicians who document anomalies they're told to ignore. Scientists who ask uncomfortable questions about data that doesn't fit official narratives. All visited, all warned, all silenced. The official position is clear. No evidence of extraterrestrial life, no UFOs, no cover-up, no secrets. But the unofficial reality? Very different. Gordon Cooper was a Mercury astronaut, one of the original 7. Fighter pilot, test pilot, engineer. Highly credible, highly respected. He saw UFOs during flights, documented them, reported them through proper channels. During a 1951 assignment in Germany, he witnessed formations of metallic discs. High altitude, high speed. No known aircraft matched the performance. He and other pilots reported it, filmed it, sent the films to Washington. The films were never returned, never acknowledged, never analyzed publicly. Later in life, after retirement, Cooper spoke publicly, described craft he'd seen throughout his career, technology beyond human capability, objects tracking his aircraft during test flights, objects monitoring space missions, objects that shouldn't exist according to official narrative. He called for government disclosure, transparency, truth. For decades of silence to end. For the American people to know what their government knows. Did Cooper receive visits? He never said publicly. Never described men in black encounters specifically. But colleagues reported that Cooper became cautious, careful about what he discussed publicly, measured in his statements, as if warned, as if monitored, as if knowing that crossing certain lines would bring consequences. He spoke about UFOs, but carefully, diplomatically, never revealing classified details, never breaking security oaths, always staying just inside acceptable boundaries. Edgar Mitchell walked on the moon. Apollo 14, lunar module pilot, the 6th person to walk on lunar surface. After retirement, he spoke about UFOs extensively, about government knowledge, about contact with non-human intelligence, about programs studying retrieved technology, about crash retrievals, about reverse engineering, about everything the government denies. Mitchell claimed briefings, access to classified information, knowledge of the cover-up from people inside the programs, Pentagon officials, intelligence officers, aerospace engineers, people who worked on the secret projects, who studied the materials, who knew the truth, and they told Mitchell because he was trusted, because he was one of them, because he'd earned the right to know. His statements were detailed, specific, credible, not vague, not ambiguous. He described programs by name, facilities by location, technologies by function. This wasn't speculation. This was testimony from someone with inside knowledge, someone who'd been briefed, someone who knew. And he spoke openly, publicly, defying the culture of secrecy, demanding disclosure. Did the men in black visit Mitchell? He described pressure, warnings to stay quiet, phone calls suggesting he was jeopardizing national security, letters from attorneys representing unnamed clients, subtle threats. Nothing overt, nothing actionable, but constant low-level intimidation, pressure to reconsider, to stay silent, to respect the security oaths he'd signed. Mitchell ignored them, continued speaking, continued demanding disclosure, until his death in 2016, at 85. Natural causes officially. But researchers wonder, was it natural, or was there more to it? 85 isn't unusually young. People die. But the timing, after decades of demanding disclosure, after years of revealing classified information, after becoming increasingly specific about government programs. Coincidence? Or something more? NASA employees at lower levels report monitoring too, surveillance, especially those working on classified projects, those with access to satellite imagery, those analyzing data from deep space probes, those processing images from Mars rovers, moon missions, asteroid flybys. They see things sometimes, anomalies, objects that shouldn't be there, structures that look artificial, signals that suggest intelligence. When they report it, they're told to forget it, classify it, bury it. Image artifacts, sensor glitches, processing errors. Nothing significant. Move on. Don't mention it. Don't investigate. Don't ask questions. And if they persist, if they demand scientific investigation, if they insist something's there, they receive visits. One former NASA technician described his experience. Anonymous interview. Protecting his identity. He'd processed images from Mars global surveyor. High-resolution photographs of Cydonia region. He saw structures, geometric, obviously artificial, pyramidal formations, right angles, symmetrical layouts, not natural geology, not pareidolia, actual structures. He reported it to supervisors. Expected scientific excitement, expected investigation, analysis, publication. Instead, he was told to delete the images, reclassify them, mark them as corrupted data, unusable, contaminated. He refused. Wanted investigation, scientific rigor, proper analysis. Instead, he received visitors. 2 men, dark suits, government credentials, NASA security. They knew about the images, knew what he'd seen, knew he'd refused to delete them. And they had a message. National security requires silence, cooperation, compliance. These images reveal structures that could indicate previous Martian civilization or current non-terrestrial presence. Either way, public disclosure would cause panic, chaos, religious upheaval, economic disruption, social collapse. We're protecting humanity, preventing disaster, maintaining stability. You need to delete those files, sign non-disclosure agreements. Forget what you saw, for the good of everyone, for the stability of society, for the protection of humanity. The technician complied, deleted the files, signed the agreements, left NASA shortly after. Couldn't continue working in an environment of systematic deception, of enforced ignorance, of suppressed discovery. He's haunted by what he saw, by what he was forced to suppress, by the implication. If there are structures on Mars, we're not alone. Never have been. And if we're not alone, everything changes. Religion, philosophy, history, anthropology, our place in the cosmos, our understanding of existence, and maybe that's what they're protecting. Not national security, not military advantage, but the fundamental paradigm, the basic worldview, the comfortable illusion that we're alone, special, unique, the center of creation. What if we're not? What if we're one civilization among many, one species among thousands, one planet among millions hosting intelligent life? What if the universe is teeming with intelligence, with civilizations, with technologies beyond our comprehension? What does that do to human exceptionalism, to religious doctrine, to social hierarchies based on the assumption we're the pinnacle of creation? Maybe that's what the men in black protect. Not just evidence of UFOs, but the implications of that evidence. The philosophical earthquake, the paradigm shift, the end of humanity's cosmic isolation. And maybe they're right to protect it. Maybe disclosure would cause collapse, panic, chaos. Or maybe we're stronger than they think. Maybe we can handle the truth. Maybe we deserve the truth. Maybe the men in black aren't protecting us. They're controlling us, keeping us ignorant, keeping us compliant, keeping us from knowing our true place in a populated cosmos. The answer connects everything. Area 51, NASA, Project Blue Book, the Phoenix Lights, all of it. There's a coordinated effort to suppress evidence of non-human intelligence, to maintain the illusion that we're alone, to prevent public knowledge of contact. And the men in black are the enforcers, the intimidators, the silencers. They operate outside official channels, deny government connection, but serve government interests. Or do they? Some researchers believe the men in black serve other masters, non-human intelligence, entities with their own agenda, using human appearance to operate in our world, suppressing evidence that might reveal their presence, protecting their activities, controlling disclosure, maintaining their advantage. The evidence for this theory? Their inhuman characteristics, their impossible knowledge, their supernatural abilities, their strange affect, their obvious non-human nature in many encounters. Dr. Hopkins's visitor demonstrated impossible abilities, transforming metal, vanishing objects, fading energy like a dying battery. No human can do that. No technology we possess allows it. So what was he? Android? Biological construct? Interdimensional entity? Something wearing human form like a disguise? Something slipping occasionally? The mask falling? The facade cracking? Revealing what lay beneath? Albert Bender's visitors appeared in his room without entering, showed him visions of other realities, communicated telepathically, predicted the future, knew his thoughts. No human agents possess those capabilities. No government program explains it. These were something else, something other, something beyond. And they weren't alone. Hundreds of cases describe similar entities, similar characteristics, similar impossibilities. What if the men in black aren't human? What if they're observers, monitors, enforcers from whoever's actually behind the UFO phenomenon? What if they're here to ensure we don't interfere, don't understand, don't disrupt whatever program is operating? That would explain everything. Their impossible knowledge, their supernatural abilities, their inhuman characteristics, their obvious otherness despite the black suits. The black suits are camouflage, disguise, attempting to blend with human authority. Government agents, military investigators, official representatives, but the disguise fails. The otherness shows through. The wrong skin tone, the strange movements, the mechanical voices, the telepathic abilities, the impossible arrivals. They're trying to appear human, trying to use our symbols of authority, our expectations of government secrecy, but they're not quite getting it right, like aliens trying to pass as human. Close, but not quite. Uncanny valley. Almost right, but fundamentally wrong. What we know for certain is this: the men in black are real. Hundreds of credible witnesses across decades. Consistent descriptions spanning generations. Documented encounters with physical evidence. They appear after UFO sightings. They intimidate witnesses. They confiscate evidence. They threaten researchers. And they operate with complete impunity. No agency claims them. No authority stops them. No justice pursues them. They are ghosts in the machine, shadows in the system, enforcers of a truth we're not allowed to know. Albert Bender was silenced in 1953. Over 70 years later, the men in black still operate, still visit, still threaten, still suppress. The phenomenon continues, adapting to new technology, new methods. They use phones now, email, digital surveillance, but the mission remains the same. Keep the secret, maintain the cover-up, silence the witnesses, by any means necessary. So who are they really? Government agents operating illegally outside constitutional oversight? Shadow organization beyond official control? Private contractors serving classified interests? Or something else entirely? Something not human? Something with abilities beyond our understanding? Something protecting a secret so profound that it requires systematic suppression, generational enforcement, permanent silence? The evidence suggests all of the above. Some men in black appear human, former military, intelligence operatives, security contractors, following orders, serving national security interests, protecting classified programs, maintaining secrecy. These are human agents, government employees, operating in gray areas, bending rules, intimidating citizens, confiscating evidence, illegal but authorized, off the books but sanctioned. Others display inhuman characteristics, impossible knowledge of private information, supernatural abilities like metal transformation, strange physiology like pale skin and mechanical movements, telepathic communication, future knowledge. These aren't human, aren't government agents. They're something else, something other, something beyond. Two categories, two types, or a spectrum. Maybe there's collaboration. Human agents working alongside non-human entities, both serving the same agenda, both protecting the same secret. Humans handling the official intimidation, the legal threats, the career destruction. Non-humans handling the supernatural intimidation, the impossible demonstrations, the psychological terror, working together, coordinated, organized, funded, and directed. That secret is contact, ongoing contact between humans and non-human intelligence. Not just ancient history, not just crashed saucers in the 1940s. Current, active, coordinated. Governments know, military knows, intelligence agencies know, aerospace companies know, and the men in black ensure it stays secret, ensure witnesses stay silent, ensure evidence disappears, ensure the public remains ignorant, because the alternative is too disruptive, too destabilizing, too paradigm-shattering. But why? What's the threat of disclosure? What happens if people know the truth? Mass panic? Religious upheaval? Economic collapse? Loss of government authority? Or something else? Something more fundamental? Maybe the truth challenges everything we believe about reality, about our place in the cosmos, about who we are as a species, about our history, our origins, our future. Maybe we're not alone, never have been. Maybe we're being studied, monitored, managed. Maybe human history has been influenced, directed, shaped by non-human intelligence for purposes we don't understand. Maybe our religions were influenced by contact, our technologies seeded by retrieved materials, our evolution monitored by beings beyond our comprehension. If that's true, disclosure changes everything. Every assumption, every belief, every foundation of human civilization. Religion becomes questionable, history becomes uncertain, authority becomes illegitimate. If our leaders have known and lied for generations, why trust anything? If our institutions have maintained massive cover-ups, what else are they hiding? The social contract breaks, the foundation crumbles, chaos ensues. Maybe that's what they're preventing. Maybe the men in black aren't villains. They're protectors, maintaining stability, preventing collapse, giving humanity time to mature, to develop, to become ready for the truth. Gradual disclosure, slow acclimation, careful preparation, until we're strong enough, wise enough, stable enough to handle the reality of cosmic citizenship. Or maybe that's exactly what they want us to think. Maybe the men in black serve their own interests, or their master's interests, and those interests aren't human protection. They're control, dominance, keeping humanity ignorant, keeping us compliant, keeping us from knowing our true situation, our true vulnerability, our true position in a cosmos we don't understand. Thanks for investigating the truth with me. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because they're out there, the men in black, watching, monitoring, suppressing, and more, witnesses are refusing to stay silent, are demanding answers, are revealing the truth despite the threats, despite the intimidation, despite the consequences. The cover-up is crumbling. Too many witnesses, too much evidence, too many credible testimonies. The internet makes suppression harder. Information spreads, witnesses connect, patterns emerge. The men in black can't visit everyone, can't silence everyone, can't suppress everything. The truth leaks out, slowly, persistently, inevitably. And what is that truth? We're not alone. We've never been alone. They've been here, watching, studying, interacting, for longer than we know, longer than we remember, and some humans know. Government officials, military officers, intelligence operatives, aerospace executives, they know. They've always known, and they've kept the secret, maintained the lie, enforced the silence. But the secret is breaking. The witnesses are speaking. The evidence is emerging. Despite the men in black, despite the intimidation, despite 70 years of systematic suppression, the truth is coming out. And when it does, when disclosure finally happens, everything changes. Our understanding of reality, our place in the cosmos, our future as a species. Are you ready for that truth? Are you prepared for what comes next? Because disclosure isn't coming from the government. They'll never voluntarily reveal what they've hidden for generations. It's coming from witnesses, from researchers, from people who refuse to be silenced, who demand answers, who deserve the truth. And the truth? It's out there, in those encounters, in those testimonies, in those experiences with the men in black. We just have to be brave enough to believe it, strong enough to demand it, and persistent enough to uncover it, no matter who tries to stop us, no matter what threats they make, no matter how many men in black suits knock on doors at 2 a.m. The truth will emerge, the secret will break, and humanity will finally know. We are not alone. We have never been alone. And the implications of that reality will reshape everything we thought we knew about existence.